It's a beautiful Sunday, March 8th, and you're listening to the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman presented by Riverwind Casino. Riverwind is Oklahoma City's premier casino experience, and there are so many reasons why Riverwind is consistently voted OKC's #1 casino, but it all starts with their amazing variety of gaming thrills and excitement. Riverwind's beautiful award-winning environment plays host to more than 2,800 of the latest electronic games with a huge selection of table games, including blackjack match roulette, and Teddy's favorite, craps. No matter what your game, Riverwind has it in spades and hearts. And to learn more about their gaming promotions and entertainment options, all you got to do is visit riverwind.com. Riverwind Casino, always a good time. And Ted, can you think of a better way to preview OU spring practice than having the head coach on for an hour?
I think that's how you're going to get all the information you need. Sounds pretty good to me.
I think our advice would be just like get a notepad out.
Yeah, that's what I ended up doing.
A lot of people probably just use their laptop or their phone. Just like have the notes app ready. There's a lot coming your way. And some of it is, he brought some names up that I did not expect.
Yeah. Yep. He did, talking very, very highly of a lot of guys. Some pleasant surprises in there for sure.
Let's not keep the listeners waiting any longer, Ted.
Let's do it.
Here's the head football coach for the Oklahoma Sooners, Brent Venables. It is our pleasure to be joined by the head football coach for the University of Oklahoma Sooners. Brent Venables is in the house, and it's almost spring football time in Oklahoma, baby. Let's go, Coach.
What's up, Gabe? Hey, Teddy. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It's been a while, and we've got a lot of stuff. Staff changes. You've added some coaches, transfer portal. The young guys have made their way on campus. Let's start with the staff. Tell us about, some of the additions and changes you've made.
Yeah, couldn't be more excited with our newest coaches, LaMar Morgan from Michigan, Deland McCullough, come from the NFL via Notre Dame, and then really fired up about Jason Witten, to be able to get, again, a former head coach and obviously an all-pro player, a guy that has been playing tight end, since he came out of mama's womb, to be able to coach our tight ends. Man, couldn't be more excited about this group of guys, teachers. And I think that's probably the thing that I took, just a lot of pride in. I think we nailed it because we didn't have to compromise in any space when it comes to, again, teaching, mentoring, passion, energy, toughness, the ability to recruit, the ability to lead. Having all three of them got a great, strong presence to them, great experience at both the NFL level and college. You've had guys that have been coordinators, and everything that the three new coaches have touched, both as players and as coaches, man, everything's turned to gold. And I say that with, again, great, respect and humility, for them, appreciation for just their body of work. And, I tried to find something bad on all three of those guys, and I couldn't. I went through an exhaustive search and, spoke with several of their former colleagues and head coaches, and it just such a great fit. And all three of them, the best part of all of it, they all three had offers to go, whether it's to other NFL teams. All three of them had offers on the table to go to NFL teams, and they all had offers to go to college teams. And all the way to the signing date, if you will, I've had to fight off people that were trying to continue to recruit them and get them to be on their staffs. But these guys didn't flinch, they didn't waffle around. They weren't high maintenance. They said, where do I sign and when do I need to be there? And I love that. These are three dudes, and they've done a great job, man. They've hit the ground running, and this isn't their first rodeo. They know how to command a room. They know how to learn a new lingo. and the probably the best quality they have, and they've got a lot of great qualities, but they know how to build, relationships. They've been leaders for a long time as both players and as coaches. And so there's a piece of that it's very natural and easy. It's been very really fluid.
Now you add the new coaches to the coaching staff, but you also big change in strength and conditioning.
Yeah.
Jerry Schmidt has been a staple of this program and its success. He transitions into a new role coach, and then James Dobson takes over as the head strength coach. What has that been like for you, and what went into those decisions?
Yeah, and it's been something that Jerry and I and James have been talking about for a couple of years now, and just trying to find the right time for Jerry and for us both. Jerry has incredible impact and influence with our players and our staff. If he, the pulse of our football program goes through that weight room and our out of season conditioning, that defines our program, and the mindset, the toughness, everything flows, from that weight room and how we do what we do in our out of season program. So I take a lot of pride in what Jerry has built, and I certainly know he does as well. And he hasn't done it alone. James has been his right hand man every step of the way. We hired James from as a head strength and conditioning coach at Vanderbilt, is where we hired him from to be the top lieutenant. But Jerry's, again, I don't need to sit here and give him his flowers. He's a Hall of Famer in every way. Nobody has done it better, longer than Jerry Schmidt. But so we've worked on, how can we help him continue to impact and influence, have real influence in both our in-season, out-of-season scheduling, and the entire scope of sports performance when it comes to elite recovery, sports science, strength and conditioning, in-season, out-of-season, nutrition, medical, just to be a liaison for me and help me in our calendar and all of those types of things. And I won't want to get into all the weeds, no pun intended. But couldn't be more excited. He's up on the third floor with us coaches now, and players are in and out of that office all day long, and just like they were down in that weight room. And so he's a tremendous mentor. He's got a great mind when it comes to dealing with young people and attacking the mountains that they have to attack day in and day out. He's been a giant slayer for his whole career, and he's helps enable our players to be able to do the same. So he's been incredibly valuable. Will continue to have a great impact. But I'm really excited about James and his passion, his energy, his detail, his new staff. He's hired a few new guys, and you guys are going to love the product that he puts out there as well.
Ultimately, it's how your football team plays, but other than that, I don't know if there's a better advertisement for your strength and conditioning program than guys going and killing it at the combine. Yeah. How about some of the numbers those dudes put up? That was impressive.
Yeah, no, that was a lot of fun to watch those guys. This is the someday that, they all talk about, someday. Well, here it is, brother. Here's Indianapolis, and, just so proud of those guys, incredibly excited. Not surprised by the success that they had there, both in the interview rooms. I've talked to several general managers and scouts, and certainly the players themselves. They'd call daily about the different interviews, both at the Senior Bowl and at the Combine. And we've actually, as you know how it goes, we've talked about, hey, one day you're going to be in Indianapolis and you're going to be in a room and all these coaches, and here's how this is going to go down. And you're going to separate yourself with your knowledge, your ability to command the room, your humility, your ability to go up and, write the whole defense down, the offense, what the weaknesses of the schemes are, what the strengths are. You're going to be able to, if you're a D lineman, you're going to be able to talk about all three levels of the defense and so forth and so on. So really cool to see them, in the middle of chasing their dreams. It's just one more step. This race is just beginning for them. They're not that's not a badge of honor, but they knocked it out. That's the most important thing is they went there, handled their business, and on to the next phase of this process, which will be our pro day here next week.
Now, certainly want to talk to you about your roster, especially some of these newcomers, but I feel like there's a discussion right now in college football, like how teams are going to approach spring practice now with how different the sport is. Coach, what's kind of your mentality with spring ball overall? Is it the same approach you've had in the past? Maybe some small tweaks, small changes to what you're doing on the field? Like what are your thoughts of how you guys are approaching this spring practice session?
Yeah, I think the last decade or so, you've seen some slight, variations, with what you're allowed to do in the out of season now. They've been a little less restrictive when it comes to some of the things that you're able to do from walkthroughs and things of that nature. The new OTAs, that's a real thing, and so you're able to do a lot more football more year round, collectively than more so than you ever have, and that'll carry over even into your summer program. So thinking long term, and this is so I think a year ago, we did a little less tackling to the ground, and I think that we'll probably do a little more than we did a year ago tackling to the ground. And the injuries usually happen in those, the piles when people are actually up and people fall into each other, things like that, when you're trying to be a little bit too careful. Football's a tough physical game. You got to train and practice in a tough physical way to play that way. And so you just try to find your competitive balance to be able to get your work done, but try to be efficient as well. Be very mindful that, again, you have less numbers than maybe you've ever had on your roster. So you got to be mindful of that, as well when it comes to, you think all the way into, January of next year is where you got to get your team. So I'm really excited where we're at and how we have things laid out. But you kind of get into create some momentum going into spring ball with OTAs, with several OTAs. We've been doing indie, a couple of days a week, individual work. We've chosen not to do the group work as much as the individual work, fundamentals. From a foundational standpoint, really got to get great at the basics. In our 3 losses, it wasn't the big things, it's the basics. All 3 of those games when we're within a score in the fourth quarter, whether it's 8 minutes to go and it's 13-6 against Texas, it's the basics. It's, whether it's penalties or it's, coverage lanes on your punt team, it's catching a ball and having great ball security in your punt return game against Ole Miss. Or again, you look at the Alabama game, just the basics of catching the snap and recognizing rotation and coverage, and playing with leverage and coverage, as well. So that's where we're really focused, going into spring ball, and we can get a lot of work done in these OTAs. So that way, that allows you, once you're on the practice field in spring ball, you don't feel like you have to be on the field quite as long as maybe in the past, where you're out there, banging heads for 3 hours because it was hands off in the summertime. And even in this time of the year, you weren't allowed to do the things that we're allowed to do now.
Well, really interested to hear you talk about the roster, and I know everyone's going to want to hear about the portal guys and the freshmen that are showing up, but maybe the most important part of all of it was the retention and getting the guys that you needed to get back. Talk about some of the big guys that are returning to your team.
Yeah, I think retention is, before you ever get to a contract, I think the foundation of it comes from relationships, from connection, with having a lot of credibility built up when it comes to relationship with the family, trust in development, trust in their opportunity, having a good product to where they guys like to win. But I think foundationally, it's the things that I just talked about. It don't matter what the money is if you don't have, the connection and the development. And so that was, something that, we made a priority, talking to, our coaching staff, to be, more mindful and aware of some of those conversations more now than ever need to happen earlier, not about, hey, you coming back, as much as their future and, where they are in, the locker room, and where they are in their opportunity, where they are in their college career. And as we know, the more you play, the better you get. It's a developmental game. If you're doing it right, you're playing your best ball your third and your fourth and your fifth year, not your first and your second year. And so constantly creating vision and affirmation for the guys, I think, is incredibly important. So they have in an anxious world and an anxious environment, they have a peace about them, about, where they are on their journey. And so I think that's kind of what it goes back to more than anything. And even looking at this year's, defense as an example of what that looks like. There's been a little more turnover, injuries on the offensive side of the ball, kind of starting in the 24 season. And but defensively, I think we had 9 guys that were from that first recruiting class in 22. 7 of them were starters, and 9 of them started some game. Two more guys started some games, and so I think it was a no-brainer. They see guys like Grayson have the kind of success he did. Dom Williams having the success he did. You push it back to Danny and Billy and Ethan Downs as 3-year guys for us, and but Owen Heineke in his rapid development, as well. Jaron and Fabechi, Robert, as well. So those are guys that obviously, developed and, paid their dues, and maybe didn't have as much of a role as freshmen or even sophomores, but that third year, that fourth year, that fifth year for some guys, man, it really turned into a heck of a career. And so I think we've had some great examples in the building that to show our guys and their families, their agents, they just stick with the plan. Don't flinch now. And in a contract year, and come on, let's go. And so there was no knockdown conversations. They were all very matter of fact. And again, I'm not surprised. Again, these are the retention that you're talking about in particular are guys that we recruited out of high school. And you can go down a long list of guys that have been in the building for a couple of years, but even some young guys like an Elijah Thomas that, he was a really good special teams player, but this is one of the most highly sought after athletes in all of college football. So even a guy like him that maybe comes in as a freshman and doesn't, catch many balls, he would be a potential portable guy, but man, that never crossed his mind. Cortland, Guillory, being a freshman All-American, there's a strong market for an All-American freshman corner. And Eli and Peyton Bowen, not to, you don't take those guys for granted whatsoever, because they both have had plenty of opportunity. A guy like Danny Okoye that hadn't been a starter yet, that for a couple of years, he freshman, and this last year he played a little more, but instead of being anxious and putting himself on the market, man, he wanted to be a Sooner. And, where do I sign? Fasusi, Fogier, Eddie Pierre-Louis. I mean,
can't lose the big fellas, Coach. Can't lose the big fellas.
But those guys, it was never there was no leverage conversations with those guys, and just to be very transparent and honest. And those guys got great markets, and they know that, but never tried to leverage themselves. And but I think we did a good job of showing them value, and they knew before you ever get to contract negotiations, whether or not you're valued. Okay, by how you're treated, by how if somebody, sees you when you walk in the building and hugs your neck, daps you up, tell you they love you, is there for you on your dark days, is celebrating your success, is calling you up, not calling you out, and telling you the truth and challenging you. They want you to keep it real. And, that's how you get retention. And, but Heath Ozida, a guy like Nigel Smith, who was a really highly recruited guy, and went through a couple of nicks and knacks from an injury standpoint, not having maybe quite the success. We moved him from DN to D tackle, and he would have been a prime portal guy if he didn't love Oklahoma. And I'm telling you this right now, as I'm talking about him, he might be having the single best out of season these last 7 weeks than anybody in our locker room. Like, completely has transformed mindset, urgency, desperation, fundamentals, athleticism. It's like, okay, all right.
We'll get you back to the interview. But first, download the Loves app from Love's Travel Stops, your guide to savings on the road. Fill up for less with the discount on fuel, 10 cents off on every gallon of gas, and 25 cents off on every gallon of auto diesel. And don't forget, in the store, you can unlock mobile deals on the Loves app to save on snacks, drinks, and select meals at Love's restaurants. Plus, you can plan your pit stops for your next road trip with the map and route planner. All from Love's, the heart of the highway.
Steaks are back. Didi Ranch's luxury steak cuts are restocked and ready to ship straight to your door. From mouth-watering ribeyes to silky smooth fillets, this is the best beef Oklahoma has to offer. And here's the kicker. They're now shipping next day air for free when you use code SOONER at checkout. That's right. Next day air like Amazon Prime, but for steak. Didi Ranch delivers taste and tradition the luxurious way.
And we are brought to you by Simple Modern, the Oklahoma Sooners official drinkware partner. The weather's turning, spring break is on the calendar, and spring sports schedules are heating up. Between tournaments, weekend getaways, and afternoons spent cheering on the Sooners, you and your family are on the move. Good news. That's where Simple Modern really shines. The new Mesa Loop is built for every loop of your family's spring, from early morning games to long days on the road. It's the grab-and-go bottle that keeps up with it all. And like everything Simple Modern makes, it delivers serious quality at a price that makes sense. And with 10% of profits going to charity, many right here in Oklahoma, every sip supports Oklahomans. Simple Modern, good everywhere. All right, back to the interview.
But guys like, again, David Stone, Jaden Jackson, I mean, those guys, people have been in their DMs, since the moment they signed at Oklahoma. And you find ways to try to reward guys. And we rewarded JJ a little over a year ago and out of season when we didn't have to just say, man, let's do a little something here. And he tells us, I don't want it. I don't deserve it. I don't need it. I'm good. And who does that? Would you? I know you wouldn't. I don't know if I would.
I wish I would have been in this predicament, Coach. I wish this was happening when we were playing. This would have been awesome.
No doubt. Hey,
know me. I would have said whatever's best for the program.
That's right.
You know how I was.
But guys like Boganowski and Reggie Powers, they could go anywhere and be the starter. And they were in a rotation. Again, they're in year 2, going into year 3 now. Man, they couldn't be more happy to be Sooners. I mean, through and through. No, there was no negotiations. It was just, hey, where do I sign? And, Manny Choice, Torrey Blaylock, Xavier Robinson, Trent Wilson, again, a highly, highly recruited guy, okay, off the East Coast. And he's right there with Nigel. He might be having the second best. And I got a good short list of some guys, but they're at the top of the list, Trent Wilson. And same thing. He didn't play as what you see it all across the country. These highly recruited guys, they go to school in whatever conference and they get disinterested quickly when they're not starting right away or they're not playing a more prominent role. And they get anxious. Somebody in their family gets anxious. Somebody in their circle gets anxious, and they can go make more money somewhere else. And the path of least resistance is, painted for them. And some guys are trying to go through the wide gate, and not these guys. That's all I would say. Wyatt Gilmore, number 1 player in Minnesota, and came in here banged up and injured, broke his ankle his senior year, and so he felt like a man without a country. But man, he's going to be the next Taylor Wine. That I can promise you. Taylor Wine. Talk about again a guy that has been here and has led the way every step of the way, and he goes from the bottom of the barrel when it comes to pay all the way to the top in one season, and what a great story that is. All SEC out of nowhere. But again, development, recognizing, Coach Chavis finds this 3-star guy, and then there's a bunch of them, R. Mason, Grayson Halton, Owen Heineke, walk-on, Jaron Canick, Fabechi, the guys that, were here and just, they developed. And great story though. Jeremiah Newcomb, we had to redshirt him last year. He had a shoulder surgery, but man, he's going to play corner. He's going to play cheetah, and he is freaking on fire. He's a lot like Kendall Dolby when it comes to toughness and competitiveness, and a very disruptive player. A guy like Jacoby Johnson, number 1 player in the state. and he's going to play his best ball. And last year, the back half of the year, he's playing his best football, and he's going to freaking take off, man. He's going to have an amazing year. But same thing, again, could command a lot in the market and chose to stay here, even with two other guys that have started a lot of football at his position. And so that doesn't happen if there's not great trust, with his mom and his dad, with him, with us as a staff. His position coach left, but man, he didn't flinch. And Alex Shieldnight, Tristan Haynes, those guys, just foundationally, those are the kind of guys that you're talking about from a retention. And that's the foundation. That was last year's foundation, a group of guys like that that chose to be Sooners and stay here in a really unstable environment. And that'll continue. To me, that's where the programs are going to separate themselves is, that you keep the guys that you really want. And I'll be honest, I think, and we're not the only school, but you can't keep everybody. And you'd love to, but you can't. And that's going to be the test of this football team. And I told that to the staff today. The test of this team, and I know we've helped ourselves on offense without question. And again, we got a long ways to go, but I know we help with the roster, okay, and with guys returning. You got 4 guys coming back up front. That's going to matter, okay. Our top 2 running backs are back, and we got a good group of receivers that are back. And then we've added tight ends, we've added some more receivers, we've added some offensive linemen, which we'll get to. But I really believe that one of the keys to our success was we had our 2s playing closer to 1 than they were playing to 2s. Okay, they were playing closer to being 1s than they were at 2s, and we lost a lot of that competitive depth, most of that on the defensive side. And guys like Gentry Williams or Day Jordan, guys that are really good players and veteran presence and special teams, real impact guys. We lost, I think, 5 guys up front to graduation, and we brought in 2. So what happens is some other guys got to step up. That's what's got to happen. That D line was like the D line is because when we brought in that second wave of players early in the game, they played like 1s. And when R. Mason Thomas got hurt, or Marvin Jones missed a game, or David Stone missed a game, or JJ missed a game, most of the people didn't even know they missed because we were still kicking butt. And will we be able to do that? We'll find out, because I can't say next man up. I don't believe in that. You got to go work. You got to be committed. You got to go through some stuff. You got to overcome some stuff. And we got to make a decision that, man, we're going to freaking lay it on the line every day and get better at the end of the day. We got a lot of work to do. We got a lot of improvement to do, to develop, this football team. We lost a lot of snaps at linebacker. And we brought in a portal guy in Cole Sullivan who's going to do a great job. And guys like Nesta and Heim got to show up and play, and amongst others, which we'll talk a little bit about. And the safety, play. We lost, Jaden Hardy, who was a really good swing guy, just a smart guy, played on special teams and was a swing guy. And certainly we lost RJ as well. And so, we didn't add a whole lot of, there's some high school guys there. And so guys got to grow up and mature quickly, as well. But some of again, we had #1 special teams in the country going into our last game. #1 in the country until we weren't. All right. In our last game, we play our worst game on special teams. But our starters and our second line players are all, big time contributors and big time players on those special teams units. And I'm not taking Mike Boganowski off the kickoff team. The dude's the best in college football.
Please don't. It's way too entertaining. Please don't.
Sounds good, but you got to keep your best players out there, man, and do their thing. And hopefully some other people can, more players and young guys that haven't been here can play like that. We can get them to play like that. But I'm really excited about, what we've been able to add. But I know this was a retention question, and talking about this group of guys, man, this is a really committed group of guys that we got coming back without question.
You you have taken the approach of recruiting and retaining your guys, and that's the foundation of the roster. But you guys have been using the portal to fill some holes that you've, or to create more competition at certain positions. Of that transfer portal class, Coach, who's kind of really stood out to you since they've been on campus, knowing that, hey, we're about to put the pads on and play some real football here in the spring?
Yeah, I've been incredibly impressed with all of them. Some are, I think maybe capacity. You go through mat drills, our fourth quarter drills that we've been going through the last, several weeks, and we'll finish up here next week. It will be our 8th week. We chose to do 8 weeks of training. Every strength coach on the planet will tell you if they had their way, they want an 8-week period where you can really see, transformation take place. And, so I think, giving them some grace when it comes to capacity, the workload, the volume that you got to be able to, show up and compete with. Been really fired up about, a bunch of them. Marion Harris, the tackle from Arkansas, who's a very experienced player, man. He's been, really athletic, and he has really competed in a tough-minded way. Parker Livingston has been just a crowd favorite. He's won a bunch of competitive drills, but man, he's wide open, and he's got a great spirit to him. The guys really like him. Terrell Harris from Virginia plays, competes like a grown man. He's very strong, very physically mature, mentally mature, knows how to work. Comes from, again, a team that competed for the ACC championship. So he's coming from the right type of, locker room. Cole Sullivan has been just right here in the rare air, just showing up every day like you want him to. All the good ones do. But he's really long. He's all of 6'4". He looks a lot like Stutzman, probably his sophomore year. He's just under 230, 229. And but man, he's a ball of muscle. He's in the building all day, every day, which all these guys are. Been really, really good. Hayden Hansen, he's been a great leader. He's a natural leader. He's an alpha. He likes it, and if I challenged the offense and just the team too. We got to be a tougher team. In the fourth quarter of our 3 losses, we weren't good enough in any phase to go win the game. We didn't do it in any of the 3 losses. We did in some other games, but I'm not trying to do it in some. I want to do it in all. And that's who I want us to be. And so we got to be tougher. We got to be more timely. We got to be, our readiness and preparedness have got to be there. We got to be more efficient. When the higher the pressure and the moment, man, the better we've got to play and execute. Physically dominate people, make our plays, do the basics better. And people matter. I think you learn from, your past. I told all the new guys, I told them day one, and I remind them every day I'm in front of them. You don't get here and get to pick and choose what you own and don't own. You own all of it. Okay, everything from last year, you own all of it. And when I say that, this is the time of the year that you're doing a lot of self-scouting and a lot of self-awareness. And I think in order to grow and improve and get better and move the program, move the unit, move the situational forward and take a step forward, man, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom, right? And, so having, great humility and respect for certainly the good, but most importantly, the bad, the scars, what we learn from the season. And, that's, so, we're one of the, we've declined in our rushing yard average, these last 4 years. And last year we were just under 3.5 yards a carry, just pathetic. And we got to get better. And a lot goes into that. You got to have a commitment to it. There's a scheme to it. There's fundamentals to it. There's a mindset. And, you got to have a kick-ass mindset if you want to kick ass. You know what I mean? And so everything plays a part into that. But bringing the right people in the room. So Hayden Hansen, Rocky Bears, and Jack Van Dorsen, those 3 guys, along with, again, Trinae Washington, he's 270 pounds, all of 6'4", and he
Wait, what?
yeah, 270.
Washington's 270 now?
Yeah, he's a big dude.
Let's
He's a
go.
big, strong athlete. He's a broad shoulder guy that it's good weight.
Hey,
Um,
tell him to be careful. I can
yeah,
speak from experience
yeah,
that when
no,
that second number's to 7, you're flirting with
yeah.
disaster.
He finished last year about 255, and he and Manny Choice were arguably our two offensive MVPs on the scout team. They were fantastic. Two of the best scout team guys I've ever had. And just their attitude, edginess, competitiveness. And they don't have any other choice. You're going to be on that scout team. You're going to show up, you're going to fight back, and you're going to compete, and you're going to make people better. And they did. They were fantastic. He's gonna do some great things. He's a great athlete, and we got him on the right seat on the bus, in my opinion. And then we got Tyler Ruxer as well, and Cade McIntyre's coming off a groin surgery, but love the group, and I love having Coach Witten coaching them. Just it's been great. Just watching their development and the improvement, what you've been able to see here with that group of guys. But most, what you see with that group likes to compete. They show up, they're loud, they're edgy, they're going to talk that noise. And I love that. They got some natural alpha personality. You can't coach that. You either have it or you don't. And you can demand toughness and you can coach toughness without question. But they got not only the toughness part, but they love to compete, and they're like a bunch of pigs in the mud out there, in our workouts right now. And but again, I think Dakota Fields, he's a corner that we got from Oregon that has done some really good things. He's very long, and again, he's got really good size. He's very sudden. He's got good long speed. Peyton Joseph is a guy. He's from South Georgia. School that he comes from is a school that they're very tough, and really, really tough. Peach County High School. And Peyton's a really talented guy that can be a really good guard for us, in my opinion. And Lloyd Avant, running back from Colorado State, he's gotten some chips, some awards, recognition. A few guys after every workout that we do as a team get recognized for just being an alpha, being excellent, representing excellence, how they compete, the details under pressure, their competitive toughness and character. And Lloyd's got it a couple of times. He's a really good all-around player, tough, physical, low maintenance, so far, high deliverer. So it's been good, a really good out of season. Fred Hinton is a guy from Eastern Kentucky that, he's got a great frame, super athlete, got a chance. He's just getting in shape. Some of those guys hadn't done nothing for 3 months. But he's got a great looking body, and can really move his feet and bend. Really excited about athletically what I've seen from him. Now we have to see how he does as a football player. Bishop Thomas, D tackle. He led the last couple of days and got a chip today in a workout. He's he looks like he's about 40. He looks like somebody's crazy uncle. But man, he is a really good football player, and we'll see if everything that we saw on tape translates to what he needs to do here in our system. But he's busted his butt, and I worried. He's been at 3 schools, and you always have your guard up, when it comes to that. But man, he knows this is a contract year, and he's been leading from the front. And then Kenny Ozuwalu from UTSA, I think he'll be a sophomore here this year. He got a great spirit. He got a great body, super athletic. He can play outside and inside. He's around 280 right now, and we'll probably keep him right around 290, and he'll play both on the edge and inside, give us a little bit of depth at both of those positions. And I'm really excited about that group of guys in particular. I probably left somebody out. Bo Bentley, he's not He's one of the freshmen. I really haven't talked about many
Yeah,
of the freshmen.
we've gone this far without talking about quarterbacks. I didn't even know that was possible, guys.
Yeah. John's been great, and he's a retention guy. And I would probably be remiss if I didn't talk about him. But man, he's on a mission. That's all I would say. He's on a mission. And he's done a great job of studying all the bad plays. John's best and our team's last season, I told him our best last season is all we needed to go win every game, and but the key has been to put it all together, at all the right moments. And you got to stay away from the bad moments. But he's really, looked back at the season and everything from his eyes and his feet and his fundamentals, the things that are going to give you a chance as a quarterback, recognition pre-snap, getting in and out of the right plays, all of those types of things. And then we got to help him around, everybody around him too. As I say all the time, you can't play quarterback alone, but he's had a fantastic out of season, really productive and hitting the target where we need to hit it with Neubauer as well. And then, Bo Bentley has come in and done some really good things, just like you would think, and how he spins the ball and how he competes. He's probably, Bo, the interesting thing about Bo, he never stopped competing. He wasn't just a football guy. He's a multi-sport guy, and he's running track and sprint relays, all the way to the end of, till the beginning of spring ball, where, through high school. And a lot of quarterbacks don't do that. They specify in just one sport. But Bo's been an all-around athlete for a long time. And then Jet knew, this would be a great opportunity for Jet to really get better coming off his redshirt year.
We'll get you back to the interview. But first,
Schwab Meat has been smoking the highest quality meats, hot dogs, and sausages in OKC since 1912. Go to schwabmeat.com to order any of Schwab's outstanding products and use promo code OKBreakdown for free shipping on orders over $75. Schwab dogs are iconic. I like to keep it simple. Just a bun, dog, mustard, ketchup. Also, the jalapeno cheddar smoked sausage is ridiculous. SchwabMeat.com, code OKBreakdown for free shipping on orders over $75. Schwab Meat, the official hot dog of game days.
And head to the garage for hand smashed patties, butter toasted buns, and ice cold beer. My go-to is the double bison cheeseburger. It's so good. The garage is the perfect spot to watch any big game, and you can enjoy Rad Hour every day. Enjoy discounted domestic beers, house wines, draft cocktails, and frozen cocktails Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Saturday and Sunday from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Visit eatatthegarage.com to find a location near you or order online from the garage in your neighborhood.
Insurica has launched a new digital agency introducing Insurica Direct. Whether you're in Oklahoma or anywhere across the U.S., they've got you covered. From small business insurance and health insurance for your employees to insurance for individuals like home, auto, and even Medicare supplements. Insurica Direct's got it all. Start your journey today at insuricadirect.com. Remember, at Insurica, we specialize in you.
All right, back to the interview.
Well, I know that everyone wants to say, well, what freshmen are going to play, guys that are just showing up. But from what you've seen from some of the guys who maybe is standing out or maybe a little bit ahead of where you guys thought they'd be.
Yeah. And, that's
do you want freshmen to play? Like, how does that work? Like, what's in the perfect world? How do you want it to go down?
If they play like Horton Guillory, yes, I want them to play.
Yeah.
Let me write that one down. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you want them to be able to play winning football. And, and part of the challenge is mentally having a capacity to learn and mentally having a capacity to show up and compete, at a high level each and every day. And then when things don't go well, which is going to happen sooner rather than later, being able to handle the adversity, overcome the moment, overcome the issue, get better from it, and get out of your own way, So this is the first time all these guys are away from home and handling, the challenge of carrying all the burden of what that looks like themselves for the first time in their lives. There's a lot. So we're super intentional about a good part of our staff meeting today is all about the freshmen and making sure that we find a handful of the guys that might need a little encouragement, a little more attention, a little more guidance, and to kind of help them pull them through the knothole, right? That they sometimes they need, and just the affirmation. But I love the competitive spirit and the toughness from, you start looking at, offensively, on the offensive side of the ball, you know, we got some big running backs that we brought in, Des Walker and Jonathan Hatton. Those are two guys that are over 215, 225 pounds and carry their weight well, learn at a high speed, have shown up every single day. They've done a great job. Tyler Ruxer at tight end. He's got some physical things he's got to put on weight that naturally it's going to happen, but he's a really good athlete. He's tough. He's competitive. Really like, where he's at. We have a couple of offensive linemen that really pleased with where they're at. They're going to have to get into a rotation with us in that 2.5 deep. We're right there, barely at the 3 deep mark. But these are guys that are likely to play in that that 2.5 deep, whatever that means. Because you want guys that can play, multiple positions. We think Deacon can play inside and outside, and we're going to need the ability to be able to play both, at center and at guard as well. At receiver, we got a receiver that we signed out of Delaware that's Jasir Rogers. He's something. He could line up at receiver, he could line up at corner, he could line up at safety, he could be a return guy. He's just really put together well, and he's got a great presence to him. He's just got a great maturity about him. Before I ever get him on the field, he's got a great maturity about him that really gets you excited. Some of the things that you've been around, a locker room for 30 plus years, you know it when you see it and you know it when you don't. Really excited about, some things that we've seen from him. We got a new kicker, even though we have the Groza coming back, but Trace Rudd's done some really good things as well as a first year guy. And then on the defensive side of the ball, really excited. I mean, you got 4 backers, a couple of DBs. You got the Jandro brothers. They're wide open. Both of them had some little issues, at times that kept them out of some of the work. But they'll be back at it and ready to go for spring ball. And but our linebackers are really like, Jacob Curry and where we're at with our young linebackers. It's a group that is really competitive. They're explosive. They're tough, and they learn, really, really well. And then we have a handful of guys that came in with some off-season injuries that from high school. So like a Jaden Petit and a Daniel Odom, they both one had a wrist, one had a hip. We got a DB that had he broke his foot, right at the end of January or end of December before he got here. So he's been a boot, but he'll get the boot taken off here tomorrow actually and start running around. All those guys will play some here in spring ball, and then hit the summer being fully healthy. But it's a good group. It's a really good group. Our D-line guys really like that group of guys. Tank Carrington, Brian Harris, Jake Curl, Jonathan Nelson. Really, those last 2 were defensive ends. They have a lot of maturity about them, and they just show up with the right mindset every day.
I know that when it comes to getting on the field, like nothing is given with you. Everything is earned. I've heard you talk about that so many times over the years. But heading into spring, like what do you view as maybe the positions that are kind of up for grabs on the team, Coach? Because like you mentioned, you got a lot of guys coming back that started a bunch of games that everyone looks at, and I mean the guys in the locker room know, like, hey, yeah, that Kip Lewis is going to be one of the inside backers. That's not a mystery. But what are some of these positions on both sides of the ball that you go, hey, this could be really competitive. Let's see who emerges.
Yeah, I mean, I really think, everywhere up front, who's going to be starter worthy, okay? And I don't take anything for granted. We do have guys like Jaden Jackson, David Stone, Taylor Wine that have played, prominent roles, maybe more so than even a Danny Okoye, right? Danny really's everybody likes where Danny's trending, but you got to go do it. And you got to do it every snap. You got to play winning football, and your worst football, shows up against good people, and that's how you don't get off the field and they score. That's how you don't. Some of the basics, catching a wide open pass on 3rd and 2, it matters. You don't catch it. Next thing you're snapping a ball and we drop the punt and then they score. You're giving away points against good people. So, the competition on the defensive line is very real. And who's going to be, that third and that fourth, if not, one or two, tackle, who's going to be, in our sub packages, who's going to be, our pass rush group, who's going to help set the edges. We've been really good when we've got, 4 or 5 defensive ends that can play winning football. And so, there's going to be great competition at defensive end. At linebacker, it kind of goes without saying because past Kip, you don't know a whole lot other than Cole's played a couple of years in the Big Ten. And but we feel good about James Nesta and Taylor Hine, the work that they've put in, even to Marcus James. He had shoulder surgery last year, and he's done a really good job here in the out of season, as well. But there's going to be great competition at linebacker, and we have to find ways to create depth everywhere. And so we're not as deep at corner, we're not as deep at safety. So, I got to make sure that Reggie Powers and Jeremiah Newcomb are playing safety and corner as well, and playing winning football. Peyton Bowen stubs his toe. I need to know, who the next guy is. Amarian Robinson's going to compete with Peyton and Mike Boganowski. Amarian Robinson is going to run through your soul like Mike Boganowski. All going to get to know number 2 really quick. And he's as natural of a safety as I've been around. And he had a great out of season. He's 212 pounds and just looks fantastic. And but we've got to find ways to create real depth. And that's going to be the challenge for the coaches. Even at corner, we gotta have more guys that can play. We can't play those corners, 75, 80 snaps of just corner. They play 75 or 80 snaps, that's including special teams. So we got to get a little more out of, that group as a whole. So Tristan Haynes, Dakota Fields, obviously Jacoby Johnson is a co-starter in my opinion, and he needs to be that dude. And my challenge to him is don't wait, go get a job. And there's not nobody has a lifetime contract. I don't care what we're paying them. Best player's going to play, period. That's how you win at the highest level, and that's how you keep your locker room the right way. And when, we're not going to be, swayed. And we got to get it right too. The art of all of it is, paying guys their value. That's a thing that, in this space in college football, it's a less, predictable. In the NFL, it's incredibly structured and makes a lot of sense. But in college, it doesn't always make a whole lot of sense. But that's neither here nor there. But really think there's going to be incredible competition on our offensive line. And we know we got 4 guys that started the majority of the games. But I know this Heath Ozida is ready to be a starter, and has started games for us. And I can go on and on, with, that group of guys. Peyton Joseph, he didn't want to sit the bench. He came here to play, and again, Marion Harris, is a guy that has played, winning football in the SEC. I know Jacob Ulrich, he's not willing to concede the punting duties to Grayson Miller. Jacob was the starter until he pulled his hammy, and then Grayson gets in there and Wally pipped him. And so excited about that. And we got great competition at kicker as well. And really across the board receiver. I'm excited about that group. That's going to be a heck of a battle here. Setenya is, one of my favorite players on the team because how he shows up every single day. He's got great durability, tremendous capacity, but he's got to be better. He's got to be stronger. He's got to be thicker. He's got to make more big plays. And he was critical for us in creating field position last year. And I'm expecting him to be the best version, of himself, more detailed than he's ever been. And Jermichael Carter, I loved how he's playing at the end of the year last year, and what we've seen from him, so far. Again, I talked about Manny Choice and Elijah Thomas, two good young receivers that I really feel like they're going to, break out, this year as well.
Well, I know as you go into spring ball, a lot of it you got freshmen, you got portal guys. So a lot of it's install and it's kind of the general stuff. But like you mentioned the run game earlier, are there any big points of emphasis that you're taking into spring to say like this is an area that we really have to improve?
Yeah, I mean, it's mindset, it's attitude. I think it all starts there. And we can't catch, man. We gotta, this is a game of inertia. We gotta attack people. We gotta get out of our hips. We gotta strike people. We gotta move people, and we have to have real intent. And easier said than done, the defenses that we're playing, but it's got to be exponentially better, and it's going to be. The fundamentals are part of it, schemes a part of it, what our reads are, some of our footwork things. There's not any area that we haven't taken a good deep look at and just honest, hard, tough, thoughtful conversations, and then making some really collectively decisions together. How are we going to improve? And just because guys are older and coming back, that ain't it. That's not the answer. And so taking a really good deep dive at ourselves and some things that we can do to make ourselves better, things that we need to change, and making the real commitment to doing so. And so putting out a plan and doing so, and then being committed to it too. I think it takes that. We've got to understand, in order to win at the highest level, the best teams, there's gonna be several 1, 2, and 3 yard runs. But the more you punch at somebody and give them the body blows, and then next thing you know, off the same actions, you're hitting things over the top and creating explosive plays in your play action game too, that's built off of, your run game. So they got to tie in together. You got to stress the defense. And, next thing you know, that 20, 30 yard run in the fourth quarter is the play of the game, that you make because you stick with it and you have a level of patience. But I'm not envisioning, just a whole bunch of 1, 2, and 3 yard runs. We just need to be a lot better. And, you go back to, say, the South Carolina game where we ran the ball efficiently and physically against a good loaded box and good, well-coached, good football players, good personnel. And our guys did a great job, ran with purpose, blocked with purpose. And, that's more of what you want it to look like. But just top to bottom, man, we got to get better. And we spent a lot of time. Our tight ends, a big part of it. The run game ain't all on the O-line. Run game ain't all on the running back. Everybody shares in that. It's the quarterback making the right run checks. It's the quarterback, with his fundamentals on the run action, on the mesh. Him doing the right thing to stress the defense, to stress the defensive end. It's the RPOs that are tied with it. If they're going to have RPOs, have it make sense. If it's the second and the third level, the strain and the fundamentals and the time to do it and the time not to when you're using your receivers to block the second and the third levels in the run game. Creating leverage in the run game. I think I look at offenses. I study offense more than I study defense, and I think the art of all of it. The best offenses, they create leverage in the pass game by formations, by motions, by stacks and the pinch sets or the wide splits, the ability to have conversion routes, the best of all worlds. If you're in soft quarters and being able to sit the route down, if you're in 3 deep and the corner's bailing on a smash corner concept, being able to button hook the route down and don't run it all the way to the sideline, find the space. And so we got to me, help our players offensively in particular, improve their football IQ, get them to really deeply understand defense. What's the defensive lens? And we need to, we need to be able to unify the offense that way. We should be able to talk defense and understand defensive structure more than just the basics, because that's what the good offenses do. The good offense kick the defense's butt because they know the defense inside and out. And then there's a physicality, there's a fundamental, there's a scheme, there's a mindset. Absolutely. And, but so we've talked through, we've worked, we've met, we've walked through. We got a lot of work to do in front of us. This is just kind of the next step here. We finish up with our 8th week next week and then take a week off and get our minds right. And we're going to freaking hit the ground running, create a lot of momentum going into spring ball, and finish up with the spring game on the 18th. And expect us to have a really competitive, what I was seen from, our off season, our fourth quarter drills is a group that is more competitive on both sides of the ball. We haven't played football yet, but some of the tough-minded things that you have to do to develop your team and, push guys to the edge, if you will, our guys have really responded, well to that.
We'll get you back to the interview, but first, for all of us Sooners, there comes a time when we need help. We need someone to fight for us, and that Sooner is Jeff Marr at the Marr Law Firm. If you are battling cancer or any other life-threatening condition and your insurance carrier is either slow playing or outright denying your treatment, use the law to get the medical care you need. Marr Law Firm believes you shouldn't have to fight your insurance company while also fighting for your life. Go to see Jeff Marr at the Marr Law Firm. They turn victims of insurance bad faith into champions.
We are brought to you by Napa Auto Parts. With America's largest network of parts and care, Napa has the products, people, and knowledge you need to keep your vehicle ready to hit the road. Backed by a nationwide network of nearly 6,000 Napa Auto Parts stores and 18,000 Napa Auto Care centers, you're never far from the parts you need to stay ahead of the curve. Whether it's your AC, oil change, cleanup, or tune-up, visit your local Napa Auto Parts or NapaOnline.com for all your automotive needs.
And 3 things matter in banking: service, service, and service. And First Fidelity Bank's commitment to exceptional service is more than a promise. It's their foundation. FFB has been by your side for over a century, and they are honored to be a part of your journey. Banking isn't about where you've been, it's about where you are headed. Open an account at an award-winning bank today at ffb.com. At First Fidelity Bank, we go where you go. And go to opolisclothing.com and use promo code OB10 for 10% off our podcast merchandise and the best OU gear around. That's opolisclothing.com and use promo code OB10. Buttery soft and 10% off. All right, back to the interview. Last one, and we'll let you get out of here, Coach. Does it feel any different for you coming off a 10-win season where you go to the playoff as opposed to this time a year ago? Like, does it feel any different at all?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, without question, and, every year, you come out of it and you always are focused on things that didn't go well. Where can you get better? And you're always thinking that. I think, if you're doing it right, man, you're a lifelong learner. You've never figured it out. It ain't ever good enough. How do we continue to push forward, get better? I know we won the game, but man, it didn't need to be that close. That hungry, driven, humble mindset. And, we've won 10 games 2 of the last 3 years. And again, we know what happened in 24 with the things that happened, from an injury standpoint, 9 starters out, 17 scholarship players on offense that were out for the season, and freshman quarterbacks with not a great supporting cast, and the turnover that we had on staff. And so I put that in its proper place, and none of it's good, but you get better from all of it. And even, we've focused on, I brought it up already, those 3 losses. Where were we not good? Where we weren't good, where we needed to be our best, we weren't. In the second half, those 6 quarters of those 3 losses, we didn't score in 4 of those 6 quarters. And defensively, we didn't get a stop when we needed to. Not when we needed to. They scored in every one of those quarters in those 3 losses. And special teams plays a role. I've just kind of mapped that out. But, we've been walking our guys through, showing them, where the breakdowns were, whether it's a penalty, whether it's special teams, whether it's a fumble on punt return, or an illegal block, all of those types of things. Really, how do you learn and improve and get better from that? And but yeah, we've made some improvement. We got better. I think we did some some fantastic things late in the season in particular. I think our team grew and got better. You learned a lot about yourself. There's going to be ups and downs and ebbs and flows of every season. The identity of the football team, I was incredibly proud of them and our staff that helped mentor them and lead them and guide them along the way. Players can't do it alone. Certainly, this is a player's game, though, and our guys made a decision about who they were going to be and what they wanted to be about, and we came up short, against Alabama in the playoffs, and but also I think it's a team that is scarred up. You learn from your scars. I think you're fueled by them, fueled by defeat and the failure. Let it burn you up in all the right ways, not paralyze you, but burn you up the right ways, and be better from it at the end of the day. Own it. And then, again, my job is to create vision, right? Helen Keller said the only thing worse than being blind is having sight but no vision. And my job is to create vision for where we want to take this team, what's in front of us. And certainly we're in the transformation phase right now of our football team, and transforming them, on and off the field in every way. And building team is harder, than it's ever been. And but man, I have an amazing staff that are amazing people that are amazing teammates in the locker room. And so if the staff don't, the players won't. And we have a staff that's really well connected, and just they're relationship driven. And so we've really worked hard at trying to build the team, and that'll be a process. As a connected team wins championships. A team that's disconnected and everybody's doing their own thing with their own agenda, and it's all about me, as we know, I'm preaching to the choir, they achieve nothing. Those are teams that really disappoint and don't ever put it all together. And so that's what we're trying to do, bring this team together, just kind of drill by drill, day by day, week by week, month by month, win the drill, win the day, win the week, get the dub, what that looks like. And there's ups and downs in that. We had a player that they got banged up, today in doing some drills, and, he's going to have to overcome it, that's football. And, but, our thing right now, like everybody, man, just trying to stack the days and the weeks, building this team. But we have great momentum, got a lot of really positive things going on in regards to our recruiting right now. Got our first and only junior day coming up here this weekend, and we're going to have 31 guys here this weekend that these are some, fantastic football players from across the country. Half of them are committed. We expect to get another handful committed, when it's all said and done. But these are guys that have been hand chosen to be a foundational, piece. And many of them will be pillars in our locker room sooner rather than later. Dudes of dudes, and guys that, are about the right stuff. Everything, there's an alignment, and that's a really cool part of this new modern age of college football. For as many things that have changed, there's so many more things that are still the same. There's more things that are the same than things that have changed. And so through all the disruption, guys still want to, go to a place where they can have a family. They want to go and be, developed on and off the field. They want to go somewhere and they want to leave with their degree. It's important to families that their son comes somewhere and, we make them go to class, and we make them go to their tutors, and we have accountability when they don't. And they walk out of there as a full-grown man, boyhood to manhood, with a degree in hand. And I think it's important that we hit the target when it comes to, all of the life skills. And these guys want to know that they can get into a locker room, have a chance to win a championship, play, the best of the best week in and week out. And a staff that's going to tell them the truth and push them to the edge and challenge them, and give them the grace when they need it too, because they need that. And that's our job. So, I want a place that, when they come to our building every day, that it's safe. A parent thinks about their son going away to college and being away from home, that, man, they have a tremendous peace because they know they're around great people. They're in a good place. That people are going to do what they say they're going to do and be who they say they're going to be. And so that's kind of the space that we're in right now when it comes to recruiting. And of course, after spring ball, next thing you know, we'll have a couple of official visit weekends, and I love the collaboration that we're building. This is the first maybe close to calendar year that we've gone through with our front office staff. And, I named off several players that were part of the retention piece, right? 99% are guys that, we recruited, several in the last several years and that are still here. And then this next group of guys will be really the first group of guys that we've brought all together collectively as a staff. And although our coaches have been, they can be a little more efficient, they still have to evaluate tape. The coaches still got to recruit. They got to recruit as hard as we've ever recruited, and those things have not changed at all. And so one thing I have a great respect and appreciation for our staff. These coaches love to compete when it comes to recruiting. They love to dig their cleats in the ground and go get it. And, if we're going to do it right and get the best of the best, then we all got to kind of do it together. It takes all of us. And the front office has created a high level of credibility when it comes to, the contract piece and the money piece, which is, who wants to talk about that kind of stuff? Not many people, but people want to know that Oklahoma is going to be about it. And certainly our administration and our front office have been about it. And so really thankful, for all the work that, there's depths of work that they've been doing behind the scenes, as well on the recruiting side of it. And couldn't be a better time. I'll be very honest. This is as good as it's been, here in the last 4 years. And it's just kind of been a progressive thing that we've built to, and really, again, excited about what this team can be here, Team 132.
Well, unless you want to talk about like state income tax exemptions or playoff expansion.
Hey, are we making any progress with that?
The NIL clearinghouse? Unless you want to talk to that stuff, we can be done, Coach.
Are those complete shows? Each one of those topics?
It's one of those where it's like,
it's a complete
just
guess,
let us know what the rules are, and then we'll just roll.
This. The playoffs are at some point it's going to expand. It's not staying where it is. It's just there's too much money to be had. There's too big of a pot right now of the teams that will be left out of the playoffs. And if it's anything like the NFL's just under 50% of the teams make it to the playoffs. And so if it's going to more of an NFL style, as they cut some teams out of it, however they do it, and things get restructured here, in the near future, that's probably inevitable. But we're not going to worry about it because we don't control it. Nobody's asking us, what we think.
Just tell me how many teams are going to be in it, and I'm going to hope that the Oklahoma Sooners end up in it. That's all I care about.
Hey, since the last time we talked, we had a new athletic director.
Oh yeah,
and that's pretty. Yeah, and again, I couldn't have been more fortunate to have aligned with, Joe Castiglione and his leadership. He was amazing, and the best to maybe ever do it. And really, really thankful for Joe and his leadership. And he's going to continue to, have a real influential and impactful role here at the university. But Roger Denny's been great, and he's got a lot of things going on. Our spring sports teams, man, there's a lot of excellence going on campus, and he's kind of thrown right into that mosh pit of it right now. But man, we really hit the home run with him.
I think we're done, guys. We done, Ted? Unless you got anything else.
Nope, I think that was it. That was awesome.
We'll see you on the practice field, Coach. Gotta come get eyes on these guys.
No doubt. Appreciate you guys, man.
Appreciate you, BV.
Good to see you guys. I'll talk to you soon.
All right.
I'm just going to call it how I see it, man. We've had Venables on quite a few times.
Yep.
Can you remember him seeming so excited about a roster heading into spring practice?
I mean, he went in deep on a lot of guys that, everyone's been asking. We expect these guys to be good. We want, coming back, and There's got to be some growth and development, but he went on and on about a bunch of guys that maybe you didn't even factor in.
If guys that you really didn't think maybe were going to be a big factor in the 2026 seasons are like standing out and have made that big jump, gets you a little excited. I'm just saying, I know we're just in spring. I know we got an entire spring practice to go through. I know there's a long way between now and the fall, but I would be lying if listening to him talk about the team didn't get me excited about the season. Like I'm more fired up than I was before hearing him talk about the team, you know?
Totally agree. He said it. This will be really the best position they've been in since his tenure here.
That makes me happy. You gotta win and lose. Like you gotta win and lose. You gotta win games in the fall. It all comes down to wins and losses, but if the head coach is excited, it's hard not to be excited.
Feels good, in a good place.
Birthday shout-outs. Happy 37th birthday to Jason. Loves any number with a 4. Win.
Happy
I wonder what that's about.
I don't know.
That's got to be a gambling thing, right?
I guess so.
Any number with a 4.
Well, he'll be happy to hear that it's happy 47th birthday to Michael Dragon Lamb.
And happy 49th birthday to Tara Elliott Hart. On that note, episode 612 in the books. We'll have a new podcast that'll drop on Wednesday. NFL star Nick Benito will join us.
Let's go.
Just a reminder, please subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hope you all have a great rest of your week. Have an awesome weekend. Is that right?
Yeah.
This is coming out we recorded it in advance, so it's coming out. I'm going to put it out on Sunday morning. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
So what should I tell people? Have a great Sunday and a great start to your week.
There we go. Yeah.
It's kind of out of the rhythm of what we normally do here. Most people would edit this out. I will not. This is staying in, baby. That's how we roll. But yeah, have a great rest of your Sunday. Get fired up about what Venables said about our team. And then that should lead to you having a great start to your week, being able to talk to all of your buddies about what Venables said.
Exactly.
Love it. Until next time, we appreciate y'all for listening. I don't know how we're still recording right now, but we are. Do what you always do, Oklahoma. Take care of each other.